See, when I was preparing for this panel, I was a little nervous that I should, bring in the Delhi pollution into the conversation or not. But I think I should thank Nitinji because he himself did that. So keeping that in mind and what we saw in Delhi over the last couple of weeks, I want to, I think this is the perfect time, the most ideal time to revisit this conversation around alternative fuel sources. We'll try our best to make this as interesting as possible over the next half an hour. And to begin this and to set the stage, set the direction for this conversation over the next half an hour, my first question for all of you is, can you take us through some of, the last decade in mobility in terms of what have been the biggest game changers for you and why? 30 seconds take from all of you. So, starting with you.
I think in last one decade, what I can say is the choices and challenges which have emerged around the mobility, especially the alternate powertrains. So India is emerging and starting its journey towards different alternate powertrains. So it's not only pure electric, as Gadkari also talked, but emerging choices around different powertrains, including electric, hybrid, hydrogen, CNG, ethanol, methanol, flex fuel, etc. And I think that has been one of the fascinating things which I am tracking on.
Maxson.
Right. I'll summarize the last, not the decade, but the last couple of years in the following 4 questions. 2018, the question was, what is an EV? A couple of years later, we were talking about, why should I even consider an EV? Today when we speak, we say, why not an EV? I'm waiting for the time when we are going to ask, what is an ICE engine? So I think this is this transition that has happened from what to our awareness to now a buying decision, and now it's at leveling out with an ICE engine. I think that that's one of the biggest things that has happened in the last, not even a decade, half a decade really, 5, 6, 7 years really speaking. So that's a big transition for me.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah, so I think for me, if you remember the biggest change, 1 year before 2018, when the minister was talking about diesel and petrol with the famous speech in Siam Conclave, there was this 2 sides to this story. We were preparing for Bharat Stage 6 at that point of time. So there was a question mark. But today, with whatever we see, alternate fuels and sustainability, and really facing the sustainability problem, Delhi being on the top on the news. So one green thing I will say, the mindset has changed. Of course, we have not arrived. Lot to do. But at least the mindset, the collaboration between government and the industry is never this strong. What we see today, like you just heard that you can believe the politicians. Yes, you can believe at least in the auto sector, whatever AMP we made, whatever FAME policy we have made, there's a lot of collaboration. So that is one major change. But the second thing which I'm not particularly happy, and many of us for that matter, the another green thing which would have happened using the same technology of AI and connectivity and all the electronics in the vehicle is saving people on roads. Millions of us drive on roads, and roughly 461 plus families does not get back their people home day after day. And nothing has changed there. Rather, what you see, the latest report, it's actually on the increase. So one way on the sustainability, we have a big debate and issue. It's on our drawing room now. Everybody talks. Rather than speed and power, we are talking about powertrain. But at the same time, Indians dying on road is not a good story for our industry. And this is something where I feel we have not arrived. We have not even started. The mindset has not changed. We still believe a road crash is like a bad luck, not like a science. With the same ADAS, with the same autonomous driving, all this connected technology we can do. So I will say in summary, decade, one good thing achieved is the mindset on the powertrain, multi-fuel. But something we have not achieved at all is our dedication commitments towards safety.
So good evening, everyone. I think we are talking about mobility and automotive, which is very complex industry and tough industry. I think what in this decade, what has happened is we are seeing a very bold Bharat, I would say, rather, a very courageous Bharat, new OEMs coming, taking up the tough challenges, trying to solve. I think that's what has changed. Coming up and not just the legacy players, but there are new players, young players who are coming and taking these tough problem statements to solve. And I think that is the change, or you just say the mindset change has happened. We have just got started, right? I think there are many problems, which is also opportunity. But first thing, what needs to, you take up that challenge. I think that's the first step we have already taken. And I think I see a bold, courageous Bharat, which is, moving towards design, development and manufacturing anyways we were doing, but designing, and which brings a lot of value. I think that's what has happened to the new Bharat.
I see a lot of positivity there, so it's good to have.
Absolutely.
Now, Preetesh, you interestingly mentioned how, people are even going beyond EVs now and adopting, hybrid solutions. And sir talked about the consumer mindset. I want to sort of club both these two and ask you, how has the consumer mindset, especially in India, sort of changed to adapt EVs and hybrid solutions?
Okay, I think very relevant question, Mr. Tiwari. When we talk about consumer, ultimately everything revolves. Consumer is at the center of the decision making. So when any consumer decides to buy a car, if you do a study and a post, let's say, on Times Drive in a survey and ask 10 questions, everybody is going to tick on, environmental reasons are one of the reasons why they choose any alternate powertrains, including EVs. But I'm telling you, it's not the real reason. People not that much care about environment, let me say that. So whenever we do studies, definitely we get such responses, but we have ways to, rule out and find out accurately what they are looking for. It's very, very simple. Consumer wants what they have been or much better what they have been experiencing till now. So if I talk about electric vehicles, consumer wants electric vehicle which is at least at par the ICE cars. That is why when automotive OEMs started introducing electric cars in India, many of them went ahead and thought that low-end solutions are going to work in India, but many of them failed, and eventually everybody is trying to bring similar product categories or much better experience and the solutions. So consumer definitely wants at least solutions or the products which are at par to what they have been experiencing. Now, in terms of purely electric car, if I want to have an electric car and drive that smoothly, I definitely want to have it at the comparable prices, which we are not getting, but that's fine. We do the TCO calculations. Everybody is smart enough to do that and finally calculate within 5 years or 8 years of warranty period how much I'm going to run and what kind of benefit I'm going to get out of it. But at the same time, first set of consumers in India for electric vehicles are fine with doing the home charging. But as you move on and keep adding the second and the third level of the consumer sets, I think we need more and more charging infrastructure. As a consumer, nobody wants to take the kind of the challenges, let's say the payment challenges, identification of the charging infrastructure, reliability of the charging infrastructure, safety, security. I think that hurdles needs to be resolved. That is one of the reasons why in passenger car, personal mobility, electrification growth is still at the 2% level. And we talk about 30-40% penetration. So that's my take on it.
Good that you mentioned all those challenges, because that's a perfect segue to my next question, which is to you, sir.
Yeah, but I'll just add what he just said. I think it's true that consumer behavior, if you study, and we did some study when I was CEO for Tata Green Battery, actually, can there be a premium on sustainability? Now, this, till date, every survey is negative. Consumers are not ready to pay 2 rupees more, 5 rupees more, 10 rupees more for sustainability. Of course, they want, it's a desire, it's a wish, given that the price remains the same or maybe lower. So even if you are not able to understand the whole cost breakdown, but we are very good in bargaining it, and this is a big impediment, I think a big challenge. And this is true with any of these topics which is good for our country, be it from the pollution emission side or be it from the safety side. That they also, when I was MD for Hella, I could clearly see that every customer asking me for a German product, which is that kind of standard, but the price remains the Indian price. So this...
सस्ते में चाहिए थोड़ा सा. I like how quickly we have come from all that positivity to, actually bringing up all these challenges, and which is what I was coming to as well with you, sir. That, what are you mentioned one thing is, of course, the price, which I'll again discuss in detail, but what are the other challenges in terms of EV adoption, do you think? Anyone of you can take it, yeah.
So, from the EV adoption, I think, like rightly said, you can say green, but green till the time it is not there on the balance sheet, it doesn't show positive in terms of profits. Everything is more of an innovation. It's a pilot, I would put it that way. So let me answer this question. What are the challenges? I think first thing we need to understand that when we talk about green mobility or EV, it's important to dissect the segments. Because every time we talk about an EV, we do not register that vehicle till the time it's a four-wheeler passenger vehicle in which we can sit in. But the transition has already happened. As on date, in India today, 51% of all the three-wheeler cargo sold in India are electric already, right? But what's happening is passenger segment is something which is slightly later. In the two-wheeler, of course, there's a lot of transition already which has happened. Buses, in fact, subsidized by the government and to the government mandates, already all the new buses, public buses are already electric. Now, where exactly is the issue? The issues have also changed. The challenges have also changed. I think 4 years back, if we're talking, the first question was, "Hum log charging kahan karenge?" Right? Now we have more charging. Even for the passenger segment, if you were to look at actually the spread and utilization, there's enough chargers on the highways. Those networks are there. The challenge now is, where can I provide charging at the place that I work and stay? So there the challenges are not about the infrastructure, the challenges are about the provisions and the government laws to enable that. If you were to look at another point, is the quality. If you look at the four-wheelers, etc., buses, I think there's enough progress that has happened. But still today, what makes news today in the electric vehicle is the lack of quality, and we know enough about it already. So I think there's enough and plenty work that needs to remain over there. And last but not the least, I call it the revolution that is there for India available, is the EV revolution. But that can only happen if we have R&D in India and lesser of putting things together, copy-pasting, but a lot of R&D and a lot of battery-related technologies happening in India. I think, so challenges come with an opportunity. I think that's one of the challenges. I still feel India has a long way to go before we start to really invest into building it for the future and not for the yesterday.
Okay. But Madhumita, how do we make it affordable? मतलब सस्ता कैसे करें? जो हमारी पहले भी बात हो रही थी. Because you see, I'll tell you what. Yesterday, for example, there was a major car maker which launched a couple of electric cars. Now the social media more affordable. How do we address the range anxiety issues?
So I think, this consumer mindset, what consumer is looking at. One is there is a change. Consumer is now investing in design. They want good-looking product. Reliability is undebatable. So it has to be reliable. It has to be, sturdy, right? Especially for India. These are two things like reliable chahiye, but design is something what the change in consumer. Now it comes how you fence. It was, that was an industry, the way of doing business. But I think it is about R&D. It is about vertical integration. It is about investing in R&D to give a product which suits Indian consumer. You cannot say something bringing from outside will right away get into the system. That will have some hiccups. It will give you a, initial sprint.
Initial push, it will give you.
That's fine. But sustain, how do you sustain? Because this consumer is very, very smart. When it comes to bargaining, when it doesn't negotiate on any of the features. It negotiates on price. How do you bring that price down? Unless until you cook it inside, in your factory, if you don't build it, you cannot bring that price down. And if you do that plug and play thing, you will fail. Because that's what we are seeing right now, right? The problem, what people are,
And if
the OEMs which are solving that. So I think it's an entire package which you have give to the consumer, and that package will only will come with technology, only will come with, you know, your R&D in-house capability. I think that's the new story of India, and that's happening. You are seeing it takes time. You know, initially there was a lot of hue and cry in the industry, but the dust has settled. Let me put it that way. The dust has settled. Now you see the players who are there.
it's getting a little mature. Right.
Yes,
And if I have to
yes.
address, I can be a little cheeky with your reliability comment. I would say your vehicle should make it back home and not to a social media post. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
You want to add something?
Yeah, I want to add something. I'll take a minute, please allow me. You know, she really talked about that consumer is not ready to compromise. They want everything. And Madhumita also talked about how we can address these challenges. Probably the technology is going to address this challenge. Now, addressing this technology challenge is the biggest challenge. Product introductions from OEM has to be at par at least with what you have in ICE vehicle. That is what is minimum acceptance level. Government wants energy security, manufacturing import dependence, carbon emissions, and the employment generation. There are two facets about it. Now let us look at the technology. How Indian OEMs and Indian traditional component manufacturing industry in India has been operating is building technology from outside. When it comes to newer technologies, for example, electrification, we think that we have the land and the money power, and we can bring the technology. Nobody is going to give you the technology, especially when it comes to the batteries, motors, inverters, converters, those kind of things. You can rely on China and keep thinking about that India is going to really develop the R&D and bring this technology. It takes time, more than 2 decades, not even 1 decade. So bringing the technology is really, really a very challenging task. Let's take the look, right, on the supply chain side. Batteries, despite talks started around 2012 with National Electric Mobility Mission Plan, followed by FAME 1, FAME 2, National PME Drive, etc. With the PLI scheme also, India only has, let's say, 15 to 20% localized content if I talk about direct and indirect localization for batteries. Motors you forget about. If you deep dive into the copper coils, the magnets, the MG cores, all those kind of things are still heavily dependent on imports. So if India wants to have its own capability around R&D and then kind of bring that into the technology, so at par components, Indianized, Atmanirbhar Bharat products, I think are still going to take a lot of time. So that is how we can say that probably pure electrification, we should not expect within 5 to 10 years.
But I think we have started, right? So we have started. So it will take time, but you have to take the first step. So I think that's
100%.
I think now we need to
convert
that
gloomy. Yes,
steps into strides, maybe.
Yes, I'm not that gloomy that it will take that. See, there's another route to this which we can take. If you look at, we can do it all ourselves. There is one variation of the strategy. Another can be deep partnerships. If you please understand the supply chain, you have a large pool of technology with the vehicle component suppliers. I basically represent ACMA, which is Auto Component Manufacturing Association. If just 2 things done, we need to be on the drawing board early enough, and we also need to be directly talking to what consumer needs. If we just bridge this two, there is a possibility of cost innovation. I'm just talking about not time to shortcut, but cost innovation, which is need of the hour, but deep partnership needed, which means again democratizing the power of developing the platform, which taken ACMA and SIAM members together should be possible in shorter time period.
I 100% agree, sir. The partnership is the only way forward.
Maxson, you briefly spoke about how we need to look beyond consumer vehicles. So from you, I want to understand, how do mobility innovations tie into broader energy storage and management systems?
Correct. So this is my definition when we talk about EV. Typically, green for us is EV. And for most people, it stands for electric vehicles. But I would recontextualize it. I would call it environmental friendly vehicles. Right? So that is going to be the definition of EV going ahead. Now, when you look at the EV construct, we see only the vehicle on the road and the battery. But there's a lot of back-end to it. So till such time, you do not declutter or clean up the back-end part of it, the generation side of it. It is only moving the pollution problem from the tailpipe to the chimney stack of the power plant. So now there's a lot of value chain. And I just want to contextualize this again by saying, from the horse cart to a petrol or diesel engine, we have given them 150 years, right? That is how the transition has happened. For us, expecting in the next 5 years, okay, everything will become EV, that is also a transition. So the first transition is the vehicle on the road, the technology in the vehicle, but there's a lot of back-end. For example, I'll just give you 2-3 elements of it. First of all, is we're talking about green access or open access for providing solar-based charging. And it started in 2018 from the government of India. There is also something called the BESS, Battery Energy Storage Systems, which can be used in the charging infrastructure. Now, where do these batteries come? You don't need newer batteries. The same batteries which is there in the vehicle can be repurposed. Now, I'm not saying 100% of it, but those angles are already being worked on. The pilots are already in progress, just that they have not reached the scale that we start to see. So when we look at a transition in mobility, let's talking about only what is on the road, but all the way back into it. Now, there's another very important point on EVs or new vehicles that we say. Every electric vehicle is actually a mobile phone with wheels and a steering. And there's an enormous amount of data that is flowing. My biggest problem today is the amount of data I'm generating, not the pollution, that's not there. And what we do with that data and how to optimize our operations, how to optimize route planning, signaling systems, there's a huge element of optimization waiting for us to happen. So what is happening in the social media today, like suddenly from television we have moved to mobile phones and even smaller, I believe the next 10-15 years is going to be these kind of data-driven optimization that's still yet we are even waiting to uncover really. That's my view of the entire ecosystem of sustainable mobility.
Yeah, I think this data point also which you brought up, this also will eventually help us to make the not just customer experience better, but also improve the vehicle. I think that is also a way which
I think, sir, do you agree or do you disagree? We're nodding in disagreement.
I think for me, again, these data has to pool into a collaborative platform. We must come, if cost innovation has to happen, the only way is partnership. I know there can be differentiation strategy for each OEMs, but the time has come for the larger purpose, which is cost innovation and safety. We must give this data lake pool to our engineers to run the AI engine to come up with modular stuff. These modular stuff can be the starting version, which can be, you can call it free, and then you build your differentiation, whatever you want to do. But in this fight, let's not, again, a lot of time will be lost. At least in the area of safety, I feel very pain when I don't see this collaboration.
Okay, so now before I move towards the policy part of things, one last question to Preetesh to settle it all for all of us. What do you think will be the most dominant fuel over the next 10 years? Will it be EVs? Will it be hydrogen? Or are we still stuck with petrol and diesel?
I mean, it's a great question and answering this is also a little challenging, but I'll go... I'll go powertrain wise. So like... let's say ethanol 20% blending with ethanol 20% by 2025 is achievable, and with that it also poses a challenge for flex fuels, the E85 or whatever E8, E100 India adopts. So that will be happening in few pockets. Let's say some parts of Uttar Pradesh, Telangana, and Maharashtra. So I think that's really going to be few percentage of the only penetration. Electric mobility is going to be one of the dominant powertrains together with hybrids, because obviously eventually India wants and India should have pure electric vehicles, but I think because consumer adoption towards hybrids, even if they are more costly, is happening in a very organic way. So hybrids are also going to find definitely a good amount of space, and hydrogen around I think 2035 we are going to see applications around commercial vehicles. If you want me to put some percentage, I think for electrification what government targets is 30%. We are going to be lesser than that for passenger cars. In two-wheeler and three-wheeler, definitely much more than that.
But Maxson, do you think this transition through hybrid solutions sort of makes the transition slower?
Yeah, in fact, the hybrid is an intermediate solution because the last solution is not electric and beyond. And to the answer to your question is, if we get stuck in saying that, okay, electric vehicle is the solution, then we are exactly operating like the ICE vehicle manufacturers 10 years ago, saying EV kabhi banna hi nahi hai. In the same way, I would believe that from EV, there are going ahead. But what is going to happen is the transitions are going to be much faster. The learning cycle is a lot faster, and hence adopting something and dropping is going to be faster, which also makes things difficult for looking at it from a very long-term perspective. And you're seeing that in the OEM's decisions nowadays. So what I want to open up to the fact that these transitions allow them to happen. There will be some which will succeed and fail. But for me, intermediate transitions are something we should let go of. Hybrid is something, of course, the Honorable Minister did mention about it. But those are transition steps. In the same way, from EV to battery systems, etc., we should be looking at. But except just one point I want to make around is the next set of fuel systems that are going to come. There's a lot of learning that we have learned from what has happened in the EV space. Not only from a vehicle, but from the infrastructure, from policy making. When the next transition happens, be it hydrogen or anyone, I think this learning is going to add into making the adoption cycle a lot shorter. So transition, good that it's happening, but it will only help us in the near future.
Enough time for one last set of questions to both of you. So Madhumita, how do you think the industry and government can work together to bring some of these solutions to the people?
I think the government subsidies has done some wonders, and plus minus both. And government initiatives, I think more on the ground level we need to have. When I say ground level, when I talk about R&D, it should be more ground level, not just desk and table. I keep telling this in a forum. We should have more, hardware, proper hardware incubators, which is at the school level or college level, where kids are kind of put into that workstation, not just desk and chair, and that is what hardware incubators so-called are called in India, and there are very few. I think that's one at the ground level where the government can start having more impact. That is one. And then definitely on the OEM side, this is a forum to say definitely on the GST, which is a ask that OEMs have, that on the GST issue. I think that's one way. Subsidies, yes. Subsidies is not something on which you can build a business. It will not stay forever. So I think OEMs have to start thinking how to build a business without a subsidy. So that's my last point.
Okay. Yeah. And Rama sir, how do we take some of these solutions to the rural parts or rural regions of India?
Yeah, so I think, right question. I think you did not get the full answer from what will happen in which year. And that is precisely a very big problem. I'm not talking just for discussion, but representing the auto component industry. For us, the biggest issue is where do we invest now? How this is going to carve out? What is the return on investment for us? And the whole automotive industry is not only vehicle manufacture as one pillar. You have the back end, which is all our supply chain, and then you have the front end, which is all the repair and the circular economy coming in. Now, we must think about them as well. And when you talk about rural, look at a place where you can't repair a battery, you can't repair a BMS, and we have to, see, look at just the auto, the e-rickshaw whole vertical, we just came up, no policy, nothing. I think today the largest community which just came on its own.
Is it good?
See, this is where you have to ask what the customer needs. A person who was doing cycle by foot, if he's getting a convenience, it happened because of consumer pull. It did not happen because somebody pushed it. So how do we then support him from that to a roadmap of coming to perfect? Nothing perfect happened on day one. So when we are looking at giving them a perfect product, of course the cost will also happen. So whether it is about rural, whether it was all the stakeholders, the idea is how can we take care of all these stakeholders? And there my advice in a small way will be that we cannot leave it to just like a, whatever happens we will see. But let us together come and design it properly. So if there is an investment, can we make the investment go into 3-4 purpose of the consumer? So if the connectivity is a technology, it can solve an EV problem with a reliability of EV, but at the same time, it can also support you for a driver behavior analysis. It can support you in the insurance sector. So how can we together come and make more use cases for the same technology so the investment from us as a component supplier work? This is need of the hour. If we do that, we'll be the winner, as India is not on a high, affordable, we don't have that much public investment to be done. This has to happen now.
Absolutely. That's what the end goal is. I think that's our time as well. All of you were wonderful here. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, can we end this the same energy, the way we started it? A huge round of applause for everyone. Thank you.